Hello and welcome to the Peregrination podcast. My name is Jason.
And I'm Raj, and this is episode 4.
So, welcome back. It's been another lovely week in Thailand.
The weather is still beautiful, although it is starting to get a little bit chilly.
Yes, especially at night. It's almost jacket weather.
Yes, and by chilly, I mean let's put on a little jacket.
Yeah, let's wear something long sleeved, wear
Yeah.
some jeans and be comfortable.
That's right.
No more shorts.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, it's like 17 degrees or something at night.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not too bad. It's been comfortable. I actually like it a lot. Yeah, and we've still been just doing our thing. Not too much happening this week. The week before, you remember we had Loi Krathong. It was busy, full of action. We had lots of fun. This week, we've just been kind of working away, living our lives here, and doing what we came here to do.
A little bit low-key this week.
Definitely.
Working on projects, lots of them.
That's right. Although this week was another holiday in Thailand. It was the king's birthday.
88th birthday.
Yeah, that's right. So there were some celebrations and stuff going on. We didn't catch too much. There was just some concerts and a little bit of fireworks and stuff like that.
Yeah, the Thai people just really love their king. You can just feel it everywhere. They have so much respect. Like in the movie theaters, for example, they will stand up when the king's song, I guess, comes
Yeah, it's
on.
the king's anthem. It's like the
King's
national anthem, but there's also they have that, and then there's also a king's anthem. And before every single movie, everybody in the theater stands up when
Yeah.
it plays.
It's very disrespectful not to.
Yeah, right. Well,
Yeah,
it's
so
their culture.
It's their
what they
culture. So even foreigners stand up, and they should, because you're in Thailand. Show some respect to the king.
do. Right. Yeah. I mean, if the national anthem was playing, it's like when you go to the baseball game, you don't sit down when the American national anthem plays. You stand
That's
up for
right.
it too. So
That's right.
same thing here.
So yeah, so it's been a very joyous time for the Thai people,
Yeah,
celebrating
absolutely.
their king's birthday.
Yep.
And that was the main event this week.
Yeah, I wonder if it's always after Loi Krathong, like so close, like the week after. Because
Oh,
Loi
right.
Krathong is like a lunar holiday,
That's
so
right.
it changes every year.
Yeah.
And I wonder if they do the king's like lunar birthday or solar birthday or
Oh yeah.
yeah, how it works. But yeah, it's only a week apart. Anyways, we've been hanging out together, having a good time. So maybe this week we'll talk a little bit about what it is like to hang out together so much and travel the world together as a couple.
Ah yes, yeah. You hear all these stories and read all these articles if you're into it about couple travel.
Right. Yeah, if you follow a lot of like travel blogs or anything, you'll see there's a lot of couples who travel, or you'll hear a lot of stories about people like a couple who sold all their stuff and went traveling and things like that.
It seems to become it's becoming a very popular trend, I feel.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we've been traveling together for a very long time. I mean, our first trip was, well, our first long-term trip, I guess, was in 2008.
That's right. When we first did the world trip around the world.
Right, but
Yeah.
we'd been living together long before that.
Yeah. For
So
sure.
it wasn't, like our first time doing anything together or staying together.
The first time was in 2004 when we went to Europe for a month, right?
Right.
That
Well-
was what started our, I guess, that's what gave us the traveling
Travel
bug.
Yeah, right.
So,
So we traveled there for a month. That was, didn't your professor say something about traveling with couples?
yes, he did. He said, Raj, a true test of a relationship is if you can travel with your partner and still be together after 7 days. He said 7 days.
7 days. Wow.
And I was like, wow, 7 days? We, Jason, have traveled together for now, I don't know, what's a year? 365 days of travel, right?
More than that. Though.
Yeah.
That was just that one time.
But his point was that if you can be together for 7 days, 24 hours, and you will be able to see the other person's true colors and see how, stressed they are and how they deal with certain situations, you'll really get an understanding truly of how someone is. It's a good test, he was saying.
Well, yes, I think I definitely agree with that statement. You do have to spend so much time together, and there's not much separation. Like when we were traveling for that year together, basically the only time I was by myself was when I went to the bathroom, or if one of us was sick and the other one had to go out or something.
Yeah.
Right?
And I have to say that when we were traveling together during that year, there were parts of your personality that I never knew of, that I never was aware of.
Like what?
For example, how good you are with directions and just, okay, I'm not trying to flatter you here, but you're really awesome. You're really kind. And those traits really came through when I saw you interacting with other people and how you were dealing with challenges that we were facing, or the way you dealt with stress, because you face a lot of stress. You see, everybody thinks that traveling, or a lot of people might get the impression that traveling is all about, all fun.
Yeah,
and
it's not a permanent vacation.
It's not a permanent vacation. There's a difference between traveling long term and going to a resort for a week.
Right, absolutely. Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, like when you have everything that basically you own is in a backpack, and like every 3 to 5 days, maybe a week, you're like moving to the next place, and you're taking it all with you, and you're living out of a backpack for so long, and you're like moving around and just trying to see a whole bunch of stuff and do a whole bunch of things and experience life in a totally different way. It can take some work.
Well, it is work because you are constantly looking for places and figuring out your itinerary, and it's just a different lifestyle.
Right.
It totally is.
It's not to say that work isn't enjoyable, or it's like, oh, this horrible thing. I'm not trying to like say that traveling is so negative or anything, but it's not easy, I guess. It's not just like, when you like go and plop down on the beach and you're at the resort and you can just eat as much as you want, and there's all these activities there, and it's just all set up for you. Like when you travel like we do, it's not all set up for you. You got to make it happen.
And you know how you just said that when you can go to a beach and you can just plop down and eat whatever you want? I mean, we can have that too if we wanted to. But the thing is, when you do long-term travel, you need to budget your finances.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you might say to yourself, okay, I'm going to have to hold off on this meal so I can, go and see that attraction. I mean, you can spend all your money right away if you want to, but it really depends on your future goals. If you have goals to, want to see all kinds of places, you got to stretch that budget also.
Absolutely. And, it helps that we share our income.
Yes.
Yeah, so like that's another thing about traveling together. I don't know how people would do it if, like you had your money and I had my money, and then we're trying to do the same things, and just like, you know what I mean? Like maybe I make less money than you, so I have less, so like I'm eating, less at the restaurant, or I don't want to eat at the nicer restaurants. And then like if you had more money, you'd want to be like, come on, let's just eat here, right? And then I would be forced to spend more money, even though I have less. Like, oh, that unbalance, it's
uncomfortable.
Yeah. And like that, it would be a major source of stress for a couple.
Yeah, so now let's go back to talking about what it feels like traveling as a couple. Do you think it's an advantage?
An advantage as opposed to like traveling alone? Or?
Yeah. What do you think? Do you think like, okay, let's just say that if you traveled by yourself as opposed to traveling with me, what do you think are the advantages of traveling together?
Oh, well, you always have someone to back you up. If you're tired or whatever, someone else can kind of take the reins, take control. When you're sick, there's someone there to like take care of you. So there's always that backup there. That's the one thing. And then there's always, I guess, somebody to do something with, like when you go to the attraction or just walking around the city, whatever you want to do, there's always someone there to share the experience with. You want a photo taken of you, there's someone right there for you.
I have to admit that when I did travel by myself to Scotland, and I went to Edinburgh.
Right, I remember that.
I felt it. I felt like I wish you were with me there. It's just so much more fun when you're traveling with someone that you can trust, and you have a lot of commonality with, and it forms memories that you can talk about later.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be honest, I don't have any experience really traveling by myself, so I don't have a good comparison point, but I know that, there are times when I'm definitely glad that I'm not by myself. So
traveling together as a couple, I feel like communication becomes better between the two people. Well, let's talk about us. Our communication has gotten better through traveling, right?
Yeah, for sure. We've had to express ourselves, and, when there's something wrong and maybe you just keep it to yourself, you have to tell the other person like what's going on. It could be critical sometimes, or like maybe you can't do something. You have to express yourself, express your limitations, or express your fears and worries, and like definitely tell the other person what's going on. So
and then eventually it gets to a point where I could just look at you and I know exactly what is wrong. You don't even have to communicate anymore, because you start learning about the signals the other person gives off, right?
Well, yeah, that's the whole communication thing leads to more of like a learning about the other person.
Exactly.
You get to learn about that other person much more intimately than you would in just like a normal everyday kind of environment, because if you're, I mean, we've lived together a while, so we've done the whole, work and come home and hang out, and watch TV and eat, and then go to bed and get up and do it again. I mean, there's that aspect to everyone's lives usually. So we've done that, and you get into a routine, and you see the person in the same situations all the time, and there's nothing really challenging or pushing you. And exploring another person involves like getting to know their personality in all aspects and in different situations, and traveling really brings that out. You might see something ugly about the person. In fact, it's probably guaranteed that you will, but that's
Human nature.
yeah, exactly. You want to see those sides, get to know them, and realize that people are just people, even your partner, and like limitations that you have to work with and things that you can improve upon with each other. So
Yeah, sometimes your partner does a really good job pointing out your weaknesses and flaws, and then that there's things that you can work on, right? Because you're being so upfront and honest. And you really hit the point when you said that it puts you in different situations with your partner, and therefore you would be able to see different parts and aspects of your partner, which is amazing, because you don't really get that opportunity if you're in a routine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's a great advantage of traveling together.
So do you think we've become stronger as a couple then?
Oh, no doubt about it. Absolutely. Compared to like what we had 14 years ago to now, absolutely. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say so for sure. But I mean, of course that's going to come with just spending time and being together. But I think traveling was a big, huge thing. There was a big difference like on our trip, on our journey. Seeing like when, for example, when you get really hungry,
Yeah.
or really tired, like those things don't often happen when you have like a nice comfortable home and you can just go to bed or eat whenever you want.
Yeah.
Like I've seen your limits also, so I know when you might need some help or whatever.
Yeah.
I won't, sometimes if you don't know the person's limits, you're just like, what the hell's your problem? Like what's going on here? Why can't you do this?
Yeah.
And that happens sometimes, but like now that I've seen, it's like, okay, I know maybe you struggle with a certain thing.
Yeah.
Like hiking down a rock or something.
Yeah,
well,
I hate it.
I usually try to help you.
I hate that. Yeah.
A lot more. So
Yeah.
stuff like that. Definitely, I've seen, us grow.
Yeah, growing together for sure. Traveling is awesome for growing together as a couple. So, my word on this is that, traveling as a couple has brought us a lot of positive things in our life.
I would say
and
so.
And I still, after all this time and traveling with you all this time, I still really get excited, and I enjoy traveling with you still. And I get excited to do our next adventure together.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
What would you say is what would you say is the most memorable moment that maybe helped us grow as a couple while we were traveling?
Oh my gosh, this is like a hard question, because we have had a lot of experiences together while traveling. You're going to have to give me some time to think about that.
Okay.
Why don't you answer that question first while I think about it? How about you? What do you have to say?
Well, for me, one of the most memorable moments was when we were in Wadi Rum, the desert, and we were both super excited to go hiking the next day in the desert, and we stayed in like a Bedouin tent, and we ate that chicken, and man, I tried so hard to not feel bad, but in the middle of the night, or I guess it was the middle of the morning, I got up and I threw up, and I was just like so sick, and I'm like, please let me go to sleep and just feel better. And then we woke up and it was time to do our big hike, and I just couldn't make it. And you're like, okay, I understand. Like, you could have been like, oh, you've ruined everything. I hate you. What the hell? Like, we're never going to be in this desert again. It's all your fault. And I mean, I could tell that you were not happy, but you also just like, okay, just put on your backpack and like, I'll lead us and I'll take us home, or not home, but to like where we're going next, which was Aqaba?
That's right, Aqaba.
Yeah, in Jordan. So like southern tip of Jordan. You're like, okay, I'll get us there. You got the ride and made sure we got to where we were going and just led the way, which is usually my thing with the directions and stuff. And you took over and did it, and you didn't hold it against me or anything, even though like, I get sick pretty often sometimes on our trip.
Yeah, but you're getting better.
Yes, so it really made me feel like, one, I was glad to have you there, and two, like it just showed that like our thing as a couple, like we were a team, not just two individuals. So that was a big
Oh,
moment
this
for me.
is really nice. You're gonna make me cry now.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, for me, there, like I said, there were so many moments. But if I had to pick one, I would say that remember that trek we did in Nepal for 10 days?
Yes.
And remember that moment where we were sitting and watching the Kali Kandaki River? And the griffins were circling around us at the top?
Griffins, yes.
That moment was a very special moment when I noticed that what we like is truly the same things when it comes to what we want out of life. Like we were so peaceful and we were so content just sitting up there and just being surrounded by nature and really just truly emerged into the moment
Yes.
and just loving it. And I just felt like this connection that we were at the same level.
Yeah, so just for anybody listening, what happened was we were on this trek, and I guess it was like maybe day 7 or 8. We were just like way up in the mountains, and there was apparently some kind of roadkill around or something, because there was like a road nearby that they had just built, and there's these huge griffins, they're called. They're basically like vultures, except not ugly. They look like eagles.
Yeah.
Like they look really majestic and cool. And so they were just like floating and circling around on the like thermals. So basically the area we were on was like this big cliffside. And so it just dropped straight down into like this huge valley below with the river. And so like we were just like overlooking these cliffs, and there's like these eagles circling around and coming really close, like within 100 feet easily. And like, but that was like their flying level, so they're like flying at like our eye level.
Yeah.
And we took some awesome pictures, and they were just like, you could see them so clearly and perfectly. You know, usually you see like an eagle way up in the sky, and then we just sat there for like a good 30 minutes to an hour just watching. It was really cool. So yeah, I had the same feeling then too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a nice moment.
Yeah. Another moment, now that you have me started on this, was it wasn't the most pleasant moment, but it was a moment that really showed me what kind of person you were when we were in Vietnam, in Hanoi. Remember when I was almost about to get robbed with my camera?
Yes.
And so the situation at that time was we were walking on the street and they were having a 1,000 day celebration in Hanoi.
Not 1,000 day. It was like the city of Hanoi's 1,000th birthday or
Okay,
something.
okay.
Or
So
was it 1,000?
it was 1,000. I was
Wow.
pretty sure about that. So anyways, it was really crowded and it was like 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and I was just telling myself, okay, I have to secure my bag because it's crowded, and you're always told as a traveler, make sure you take care of your bag. And I was pretty sure that I had my bag secured, like nicely zipped up and protected. So we started walking on the street, and Jason and I were walking, and then these ladies, I would say they were in their 50s or 60s, really strong looking ladies, but they were offering us these flags, Vietnamese flags, right?
They weren't really offering, but there were other people who were selling those flags, and they looked like they were doing the same thing.
Yeah, it looked like they were doing the same, at least that's the impression I got, but they were putting them in front of our faces, okay? And it was getting really annoying. And so we were just like, we're not interested in getting these flags. Please move aside. But the thing is that when we crossed the street, they kept following us.
Yeah,
right?
they're basically like blocking our path.
They were blocking
stopping
our
us from
view.
moving forward.
Yeah. So then at one point what happened was you got really frustrated, right? And you moved away and you moved forward.
Yeah, I just broke through.
You broke through
Let
them.
me the heck out of here.
Let me out of here. And I was about to follow you, but they surrounded me. And I thought I only had 2 women around me, but what ended up happening later I found out was that there were like 6 of them, and they had encircled me. And what was happening was they were distracting me, right?
Yeah, by waving the flag.
By waving the flag and making me all frustrated and agitated. And they were doing a really good job. And I was like trying to get past them, but I couldn't. And I was just really shocked. I didn't know what to do, even though I wanted to get out of the circle. And then later I found out that the ones behind me were trying to open my camera bag to steal my camera. So at this point, I am feeling helpless. And what happens? Jason comes back. You came back, right? And you just took my hand and you pushed me through that circle of women, and they were probably shocked to see like you come through like that because they didn't expect it. And you were my savior. You helped me. You rescued me. That was such a defining moment for me, and for me to realize that, I have someone who will really protect me and get me out of a situation which was very terrible. And then after that, you consoled me with the whole situation because it was horrible. Like, even afterwards that somebody would try to rob me. I mean, I know it happens a lot to travelers. They get robbed. It's
still not a nice thing.
It's
or
not
a good
a nice thing.
experience.
No. So, I mean, you were there for me, to support me. So that was really, truly something that was negative turned into a very positive thing for me because I saw a part of you that, I would have not seen if we were just living at home doing a 9-to-5 job.
Okay, so one last thing then. Let's get out the nitty-gritty details. What would you say is the worst moment then while traveling?
The worst moment, like
not worst, maybe hardest, like
the hardest,
or yeah.
Okay, I think that the hardest moment for us is when we're indecisive, like when we're trying to just decide. It could be as simple as what should we eat.
Right.
If we are feeling really hungry and we're really tired at that moment, or we're just really exhausted, or something went wrong during the day, making even like a simple decision like where should we eat becomes very, very difficult.
Yes. So yeah, I would agree. Like, there's not one specific thing that has kind of like stood out in my mind as being so horrible, but I mean, there are fights and stuff that happen, like you.
Every couple fights, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So we've had a couple of those, and those aren't pleasant, I guess, especially when you're on the road because you feel kind of like, I don't know, you just kind of get this thing like you're traveling around and you're not like at home, so you can't just like walk out or like blow off steam and like go visit your friends or something. Like, you're still stuck together there, so that could be hard.
But it can be a good thing too, because then that forces you to
like
deal with it and work it out. And you know what, we always do, work it out, and
yes.
that is also great. And that kind of shows you that when you really are in an argument, that you can work it out if you really want to.
Yeah, and it shows you, it also helps you put things in perspective, like what's important. Like, we're on this trip or on this vacation, like, do you really want to go home? Is it worth ending the whole entire journey over whatever you're fighting about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gives you perspective, totally. And that is something that can apply really well in life, in all other aspects of life too.
Sure.
So yeah. So Jason, what else is it that we want to talk about?
So I'm debuting a little new segment on the podcast here. It's basically a little debate that we're gonna have.
Okay, and I have no idea what this debate is about.
It's like, so the segment is basically the question of the week.
Okay.
And we're gonna start with a classic: cake versus pie.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So take a side.
Okay, without a doubt, when you said that, automatically I thought cake.
Really?
Yes.
Expound the luxuries and wonderfulness of cake.
I think this has to do a lot with living in Korea and being in Korea for a while, like 6 years. I love Korea, but when it comes to making cake, they don't have it right. They just don't make the cake right. So I feel like I have missed out a lot on cake. And when I came back home to Canada to visit for a while, I went for the cake, not for the pie, and it's just delicious.
Yes. I understand, but cake is limited. Cake is just cake. You got your cake and you got your icing, right?
Yes.
We're talking about pie here. Think about like all the different pies. There's like a lemon meringue pie,
yes,
right? You get like that like base of lemon and then like the meringue coating on top. And then you can get something like a pecan pie, right? Totally different. Or like a pumpkin pie. And then like an apple pie. Like, there's all these different little configurations of pies. They're all pies, but they're like different consistencies, vastly different flavors, all delicious.
This is true, but you can also get lemon cake. You can get different kinds of cake, like vanilla cake, chocolate cake.
Yeah,
now they have the red
you're
velvet.
You're just saying different flavors of cake. You still got cake, and then you've got icing.
Right.
But the pie, like a pumpkin pie, right? You get your pie filling. It's like a vastly different consistency than, say, like an apple pie or a cherry pie.
Right.
We're getting like chunks of fruit and like this delicious, like crusty coating on top and bottom.
Well, cake is more versatile. You can eat it like anywhere and everywhere. With pie, you kind of have to heat it up, and it takes longer, and and then cake.
There are pies that you can eat where you don't really have to heat it up.
That's true.
Yeah, we just had a lemon pie the other day. Heating that's no good. Or like a. Now, here's the question.
You really thought about this. Oh God.
Cheesecake.
Yes.
Looks like a pie,
right.
but they call it a cake. Is it a cake or a pie?
I'm gonna say it's cake.
Cake is in the name.
Yes.
I guess I'll give you that kind
Right.
of.
Yeah.
Fine. Okay, we'll call it cake. So there's a difference in the cake. Now, I guess what I've been arguing pie here,
Mm-hmm.
only to play devil's advocate.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So what it really
Well, you
comes
did a
down,
good
what it
job.
really comes down to me here is that we have a brownie.
Right.
Does brownie fit into the category of cake, or is it like its own thing?
That's a good question.
Is a brownie like a cake, or is it just its own thing? Is it off to its own separate thing? Is it just like a really thick, nice chocolate cake, maybe with some frosting and nuts? Do you think it fits in the cake category?
Okay, so if I had to fit it in a category, I would fit it in the cake category because it is very similar to a cake, I feel. But yeah, I don't know why people just don't put it in that category. Because they do just call it like a brownie, right?
Right.
It's definitely not in the pie category.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, so if I had to, I would say cake.
Okay, well, if we're putting brownie in cake, then cake, no problem. If there's no brownie in there, then it's debatable. I mean, I love cake. I love a good like frosted cake. I love frosting on a cake. But man, my mom makes the best apple pie. So
She does. She really does.
yeah, I love it. And she makes an awesome pumpkin pie too. Put some Cool Whip on there.
Right.
Yeah, like man, when I was a kid and eating those, there was one time I asked for an apple pie for my birthday instead of a cake.
Wow.
So that's how good this pie is, right?
Yeah, no, some of the best pies I've had are from her. She's done a really good job with the pies. She's been making them for years too, though, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
She's
that's
got her
great.
recipe perfected now.
So we're in agreement with this question then, eh?
Yeah, I guess I'm leaning slightly towards cake. If we're including brownies, then we'll say cake. So you're
Right.
saying cake?
I'm saying cake.
Then from the Peregrine Pals, cake versus pie, cake.
Cake.
Cake takes the cake.
Yes, it does.
Right on.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so that was a fun segment. That's it for this week. So as usual, check out our YouTube channel. Our podcasts are always on there, of course, and our video that we just put out from last week is about Loi Krathong, correct?
That's right. So the video is about Loi Krathong. It's going to feature all the highlights that we saw during the festival. It's going to be short, just to give you guys a little bit of an idea of what this festival was about and how we experienced it. Also, please do subscribe to our iTunes.
Yes, that's right. Again, we're on iTunes, and really subscriptions and rating us and leaving reviews, they really helps push the podcast into the limelight. Maybe other people will listen and have some fun. And if you have any questions, you can, find us on Twitter, leave comments on YouTube. So we're at Peregrine Pals on Twitter. There's Instagram also, where we're Peregrine Pals.
Facebook page. Yeah.
Facebook page is Peregrine Pals again. And the podcast goes up on SoundCloud too, if you prefer that. And I actually also just put it on Stitcher. I don't know if anybody uses that out there. I don't. But it's on there.
It's there.
So yes, and hopefully more with the website I'll be doing later this week.
That's right. So guys, thanks again for listening, and we hope that you guys will tune in next week for another episode.
Yes. Enjoy your journeys and see you next time.